Good evening, and welcome to another scene in the living world of darkness, Rage Across New York. Today, we have our newly minted Cleith of the Bone Nars, Icarus, going to consult with current Sept antagonist, Vasili, over some certain events that have happened in the recent past. As Icarus makes his way, having called ahead and made an appointment with Vasili at his IES office, and is making his way through downtown Manhattan. He comes across the IES building, which is pretty new, well appointed, very modern looking glass structure. And out front, Icarus sees a bunch of people sort of posted up out across the street from the IES entrance. Look like they're protesting something to do with IES, your generic, save the whales sort of thing. But Icarus happens to notice that a lot of the faces in the crowd are some of the kinfolk that he has seen go off to train with the Silver Tusks in recent weeks.
There's a frown. There's a deep frown. But he knows that he's come here for a reason, and he stands with them in solace, but he's crossing the line. He's going to look like a scrub, but he's here to get information. And so he squares himself up a little bit from across the street. He dusts his imaginary dust off his pants. He's got worn pants, but they look a little newer than normal. He's got like a nice shirt. He's probably borrowed it from somebody. Probably another one. They probably got it from his aunt. So nothing like brand new or anything with that, but definitely something that looks like he's going to go do something relatively important, or as important for Bonar. He ruffles his own hair, and then he heads across the street.
So as Icarus pushes into the IES building, he notices that the place again just sort of reeks of modernity, and when he has to check in with the security up front, and he is allowed into the elevator, which takes him up to the 15th floor of the building. And when he steps out, it is into a sort of an atrium. There, either way you go into IES offices, and you're directed by a secretary into the left-hand office area. As you pass through, you notice that there are a lot of people hard at work. This is much more of a modern workspace. There are sort of standing desks, and there's a lot of interaction between the different employees, and more open air workspaces, and no cubicles or anything like that. And Icarus gets no small amount of strange looks from the people that are hard at work in this area. And he's led, or not led, but directed past all of this to a staircase that leads up into a separate area. He can kind of spatially tell that he is moving up into a corner of the building, and the secretary out front asks you to wait while the boss is finishing a conference call, and I suppose that he does so.
Yes, yes. He will take a seat and he'll just more or less enjoy the view. It's nice. He's never been this high up in like a nice building. So he's going to take in everything.
After about 20 minutes or so, he is paged in, and the secretary directs you, Icarus, into the office.
He will thank her and then head on inside. Open the door, slip in, and then he'll like close the door behind him.
So the office is much like everywhere else, really well appointed, no expense spared, and oops, off to the side, Icarus sees the man of the hour uh, standing in front of a table upon which there are some drinks, and he looks over at you as you enter, and he says, to what do I owe the pleasure?
Icarus gives like a slight head nod, like downward. You mentioned once upon a time when we met you to find out what happened from Mother Larissa. And as a Galliard,
I
of course,
remember you.
he
You're
stops
the
and
you're the little
smiles.
one, aren't you?
Yeah,
You're the cub.
uh, yes.
Do you want a drink? You seem nervous.
Oh, it's not every day. Well, it is seeming to be my everyday. I go into the lion's den and still makes me a little nervous, but I walked into here with my head held high and my nerves will relax.
Most people who enter lions' dens generally think that they will not run afoul of man-eaters. What's your poison?
Oh, just water for right now.
Mm, I see. Well, I don't have water. I have vodka.
I've never had vodka. So, yes.
Well, that's unfortunate. Today's your lucky day. And he pours a small crystal glass, makes his way over to Icarus, and whenever he comes close to Icarus, um, this man stands about 4 inches or so taller than Icarus, and Icarus can just sense that there is a sense of imposition sort of leaning over him, and he offers the glass.
Well, we'll take it with both hands. One to grasp around the cup, the other to hold it, almost like if his hand was the table. Uh, thank you.
So perhaps introductions are in order. I say I remember you, but I don't think we've met.
No. Or maybe once
Well,
before.
go ahead, do the thing that you people do.
Uh, name's Icarus, now known to the nation as Chase's Peace. Uh, Cleeth Bonar Hamed Galliard, Sept of the Great.
Oh, you've graduated. That's
Officially,
exciting news.
yes, I like to think so. Like to think so. It was
So did you aim for the garbage can, or did you just miss something more important when you ended up at Bonar?
uh I don't know, the trash looked pretty interesting for me. You never know what you find in there. Everyone overlooks it.
Oh, there's the reason. Usually it stinks. Have a seat.
Mm. He'll go and he'll look around and find a seat and he'll take it.
There's a sort of a couch spread out in
Oh,
front of the desk, and Vasily wanders over to the desk and sort of plants his ass on the edge, sort of facing Icarus.
Icarus will sit all the way back on the couch. He'll still be holding the cup. You could definitely see that he's waiting almost for seeing if Vasily will get one as well, or if this was just for him.
Vasily has one in his hand.
Oh, wonderful. All right.
He takes a sip. He goes, "It's not poison. I wouldn't have to resort to that sort of thing. You understand?"
I do. I just don't know proper etiquette when drinking vodka, so I figured I'd defer to your judgment.
Vodka comes from the humble potato. There is no ostentation or need for ceremony here. Drink freely.
Oh, right. And he'll take like a healthy sip, and there's a cringe because this is his second drink. Well, his first liquor drink he's had, so there's definitely this, the first time you've drank anything look on his face, and he's like, okay, 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 wow. And he looks at the cup, and he's just like, whew.
I imagine you've never seen anything like this before. That's about $100 you're holding in your hand right there.
No. No. Because, I don't drink very much.
Teetotaler?
The what?
A teetotaler.
Yes.
He gives you a pointed look.
And he looks actually suspicious. He's like, I don't know.
It's more like it. I prefer that we be honest with each other here, if only here.
Oh, well, yes.
So, I suppose that you're the good cop to Zelda's bad cop?
I don't know why Zelda came here.
No?
Never asked. She didn't offer.
It's not surprising.
I find that Shadow Lords like to keep their secrets.
I find that Bonars like to revel in stereotype.
Yes, most often we do.
But I don't hold it against you. Not yet, anyway. Give me some time.
There's a smile.
He takes a sip.
And Icarus will take another sip. The grimace isn't nearly quite there, but does. And he looks at the cup, and then he just sets it in his lap, and then he just holds onto it. Thank you for setting time aside to talk to me. She didn't have to, but he kind of like his shoulders kind of shrug. But thank you. I felt that was always, it's not so much pleasantries; it's honesty. I actually have two things to ask of you, if you were so willing to share with me. You, once we met, or upon many of the times that we met, you had mentioned that there was a story to be told one you felt you did not wish to necessarily tell, but to ask Mother Larissa. And I did. I asked the story as she knows it from her eyes and her
I,
memories.
I hope you weren't disappointed.
Um, Sad. I was sad.
Why is that?
Loss of life. Loss of life. I know it's inevitable. I can't believe that, you know, we never die. We do, but it's always a little sad to loss of life, whether it be sudden, whether it be inevitable, whether you see it coming, whether you don't. Loss of life is always
Everyone knows death is inevitable. The problem doesn't come from inevitability. It comes from a lack of hmm, he takes a sip. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go on.
oh uh so I was wondering if you were to be so inclined to tell me from your eyes, from your memories, what happened.
Do you know the reason that I said that you should get the story from her?
I can speculate.
What do you speculate?
Um, Icarus sits up a little bit and he looks in his cup. You can tell he's thinking a little bit. This is a this is a heavy burden to bear. One that had you not have showed up in our lives, she might have, one day passed and the story would have been over.
I'm
No one
sure
would have
she
known.
would. I'm sure she would have liked that very much.
You're right. You shook things up. You caused us to question our leadership, one another, choices. Do we believe that leadership is as wonderful and great as we believe them to be? Do we think them less than? Can we still follow them, knowing that our choices were made? Would we? Are we okay with knowing these hard choices were made? Are we okay with knowing these secrets were kept? Deep secrets, very deep secrets, secrets that affect many of us, even if not immediately directly. So that's what I took away from it.
The reason why I told you to get the story from her is because I knew you would believe it.
He looks up. He looks up, kind of like off in thought. He's just like, because if you told us, we might not have believed you. Hmm.
I imagine that my word doesn't carry much in the way of trustworthiness around the set. Would you agree?
We definitely started off on the wrong foot, so it's hard to look at a villain and believe that he's telling the truth. But when you're a villain, why lie? You gain nothing telling a lie. You're already viewed as the villain. But when you're the good guy and you hear from the good guys, oh, this person was just a horrible person, and you go with the good guy because he's always been the good guy. He's never had any reason to lie. Hmm.
Do you think that perhaps the good guy might tell a lie in order to continue to be perceived as the good guy?
Yes. He does not. He barely hesitates, but he goes, yes.
I thought so. So I'm going to do a little game, Galliard. Tell me the story as you know it. I'm interested to hear what she said, seeing as how you have cost me my eyes and ears on the set recently.
He has like a small shrug, like, it is what it is. Uh, and he goes, all right, the story as I know it, with, and I will hold back my normal bravado because as much as I enjoy telling this is a story worth telling it as best I remember. Uh, Once upon a time, many moons ago, somewhere 20-ish or so years ago, Mother Larissa was the beta, and to the alpha at the time, you led a very strong pack. The alpha and Mother Larissa were told of a delicate meeting going on with vampires out of town with a he stops because he wants to make sure he gets the words right. Uh, it's the bomb. Nuclear, maybe atomic. It's one of those two. I know it is not your average bomb. Uh, well, obviously no bomb's average, but one more that to get it to acquire it actually requires a lot of pull and a lot of eyes to look the other way. So they had brought here to the city to discuss in secret what to do with it. Uh, as Mother Larissa put it, the Alpha had gone to, I guess, maybe tort the meeting or to try to expose the meeting and did not return. Mother Larissa became Alpha. She advised you and your pack. She said you were the best pack that she knew to go to do this. Uh, she said that you had gotten volunteers, some guru, some kinfolk to come along to settle this. And you and was it you or maybe just a few and a few others had came back? Everyone else had died. She was upset. She was furious. Um, my brain has fogged on the small bit in between how it came to that you went out again. If she had told you to handle it, believe that is maybe not in exact words. The general gist was for you to handle it. Did not come back until you had. And so, from what I've gathered from others on how, well, no, you asked for volunteers, and many kinfolk showed up. Somewhere, I believe, in the neighborhood of 84, and the high numbers, less than 100, definitely more than like 75. Uh, you all came, grabbed the kinfolk, you did the thing, you got the weapon at the cost of the kinfolk's lives. From what I have heard through the grapevine, and with a bit of pulling of teeth from Mother Larissa, that there's a talent that Shadow Lords have that can make your blood toxic to a vampire. When the kinfolk were left in the room, the vampires, and the vampires died. The cost of the kinfolk, and it was acquired. And then she was upset and said, "Get out of my face! I never want to see you again." And that and he stops and he looks the other way as he's like trying to like go over the story in his head. He's like, and that, okay, and that. Though I feel like there are some things I'm missing from the story, from what she told me, but I believe that is what I was told from her. Yes, he
And
stopped.
so, having heard that story, what exactly are you hoping to gain here?
My mom was a lawyer. She always believed there were three sides to any story: yours, theirs, and the truth that came between. I wish to know your story, and at least for me, to find out the truth that came between. Now, you could tell me that is exactly what happened, and that'll be that. And that is the story as the truth tells.
Not quite. I admire your earnestness in seeking out the truth. So listen closely. I'll tell you exactly what happened, as best as this old wolf can remember. So, 30 years ago, as it were, there was a grave threat that came to New York City. I was young at the time. The witch was the beta, as you said. He looks pensive for a moment. I had heard that a what is known as a dirty bomb went missing from the former Soviet Union, where I come from. My contacts there had informed me of a possible threat, and of course, it came to our shores. But the devil's in the details. What she told you is not exactly wrong, depending on what exactly you forgot. But the leeches that had the bomb weren't an ordinary sort of leech. Leeches have no interest in destroying a city. That is, the city is their haven. It is where they live, it's where they feed. They don't want anything to do with that. The particular variety of leech that we were dealing with was one known as the Bali. And this is a sort of leech that is an ancient foe of the normal leech, as you would call it. There are factions among the leeches. You may or may not know this. The one interested in keeping the status quo, that one reached out to us when they realized that there was an existential threat. So, the Sept of the Green, knowing that New York being nuked is not exactly ideal in our maintaining our duties to Gaia, had no choice, obviously, but to help. It was I who brokered this arrangement. I met with the leeches, and I learned of the absolute zealotry of what this other group, these Bali, represent. These Bali are an apocalyptic group. They worship demons, the devil, that sort of thing. And this isn't some garden variety, Church of Satan bullshit. This is some real eldritch nonsense.
Hmm.
And they have no problem with destroying a city for their fell god, the devil, whatever you call it, and dying in the process. Those are the sort we were dealing with, the type that have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And so, the Alpha took some of the best and brightest of the set to go and deal with these Bali head on, as Garu are wont to do. And they all died. He takes a sip of his vodka. So,
Icarus's mouth is like slightly open, just a little. Oh. But he's like intently listening.
So, the witch was thrust into leadership. In my opinion, far too early, which you wouldn't expect given her age. But here we are. And faced with a difficult decision, I cut the deal. The Bali were well equipped. They were fanatical, very dangerous. It would have been an amazing loss of life. And our numbers, even back then, were not such that we could throw around lightly. But you know what we have a lot of?
Kinfolk.
Exactly. And I happen to know of a certain ritual that, if presented in the right way, a deception could be made. No frontal assault, no violent attack. The leeches weren't prepared to do it either, you see. They weren't going to sacrifice their numbers to attack them, even in the threat, with the threat of the bomb. That's how you know how dangerous a game we were playing. So I saw no other way but to sacrifice some pieces to secure a checkmate. So I gathered up volunteers, told them that they were going to save the city. I couldn't tell them what exactly they were doing. Of course, there would be no volunteers. When you have a herd of anything, the second that one senses danger, the rest run with it. There may have been one or two selfless individuals that may have decided to sacrifice themselves, but the rest would not. I couldn't tell them. Utmost secrecy was necessary for the greater good. And so we took the volunteers and created a lot of this Talon that you spoke of. Had them use it. And then turned them over to the leeches to render them such that the Bali would not suspect anything. What exactly became of them, I don't know. I didn't want to know. No one did, to be honest. Even those who knew what was happening. And of course, I couldn't tell the witch either, because if she knew, she would never let it happen. We would find a way and have all been blown into oblivion. That sort of can-do attitude works to a point, but not when you're on that sort of a clock against that sort of a foe. I understood this. So, the ritual, or the orgy, as the other leeches put it, that the Bali were engaged in, the celebration of their culmination of their greatest victory, destroying their foes, reaping the souls of millions. The other leeches clandestinely snuck in the tainted blood, and a great purge happened that night. The problem arose that the leeches took control of the bomb. Even after the Bali were eradicated, the bomb was still in the hands of people that we would not trust with it. Of course, Mother Larissa found out, and when that happened, she was rightly angry, perhaps overreacting a little bit. After all, we had saved the city. Hell, we may have saved the world for all we know. Can you imagine what kind of damage a nuke going off in a major American city would do to the economy?
Huh.
To the country?
Yeah.
Who knows? So, she tasked us with going to recover the bomb, and what she didn't know, she knew that I had made some sort of a deal with the leeches. That's why they were allowed onto the sept to claim the kinfolk. What she didn't know was that I had arranged that they would keep the bomb as part of the payment for putting their people in danger in terms of providing the kinfolk, infiltrating their ranks, that sort of thing. After all, they don't want to destroy the city. Well, Mother Larissa tasked my pack with going to recover the bomb, and thus reneging on our deal. And leeches are very long-lived creatures, you see. They remember for a long, long time, longer than most of us exist. In so doing, we created enemies, powerful enemies. We'd recovered the bomb. And then, one by one, as we were sorting out the politics, as I was facing all the rights known to Garu society, my pack was being hunted down by leeches and destroyed until none was left but me. And then, as the final insult for saving the city, I was cast out. Perhaps it was pity for the extreme cost to me and my family that caused her to take pity on me and let me go rather than killing me. Some would call that a mistake. I would not disagree. So, as thanks for my services, for doing what had to be done, for the low cost of 85 souls versus however many million are in New York City, all I had to do was endure the shame of being exiled from the community that I sacrificed everything for.
Icarus drinks the last of his cup. He doesn't grimace at this point. He's just like down the hatch. Just sits there. And then he kind of gives a slow nod. If you had told us this first, I don't think we would have believed you. You're right. It's not that it sounds too far-fetched, but and he kind of gives like a slight wave, like he's like beckoning towards the window. It's Mother Larissa. She's lived a long, long life. She's done lots of good things. They're an outcast. I
How
would
do you
believe you.
what do you know of her, really?
Exactly. I'm young, dumb, and like 20. I do like dumb things at least like once a week. You know, she's like the pinnacle of my tribe. She's like the boss of the sept. Sorry, the leader, the alpha of the sept. Again, it's hard to think and imagine that, yeah, eventually leaders have to make hard choices. And I guess you never really truly think that these are the kinds of choices they make or the positions that they put people in because they're good people, right? They have to be. Have to be good people. It makes no sense why they wouldn't be good people. And we live a fairy tale of they're great people, and everyone else is just a villain if they say so.
He smirks. It's easy to make condemnations after the act is done when you didn't have to make the choice. You didn't have to make the sacrifice. It's very easy. Do I begrudge her that? No. It's about what I would expect of her pitiable clan. After all, you have that comic book quality of saying that we will never make that sacrifice. We would find the way. We would persevere. Personally brave, yes, but really, I don't think that anyone could spare so many Garu lives assaulting that nest of fanatics. Consider for a moment if we did, and all of the packs of the Sept mobilized and attacked. Imagine the weakness that would be left over. Do you
Yeah,
think that we could do our duty to Gaia to protect the cairn, to protect the city from the worm, or even, I know that leeches are of the worm, but even the very, very self interested leeches might have decided to take a pass at us so weakened after we do their bidding for them. No, I could not risk sending Garu to their deaths there. I understand that everyone in the Sept of the Green has a particular love for their kinfolk, but that's not the way of many Septs. Many Septs would make that sacrifice in a heartbeat. We have plenty of kinfolk. We don't have that many Garu. And so, I made the hard decision. I took all the consequences. So, what I'm saying is that you owe me a debt, and you don't even know it.
you're right. Why now? Why?
Because
Why?
now I am in a position to exert my will. I've been watching the events that have unfolded around the Sept of the Green for the last many years. There were times before this where, given the state of the Sept, I likely would have been hunted down very quickly if I had betrayed my position. I would not have the soapbox that I have now. 。 You lot are a really introspective bunch. You do a lot of thinking rather than fighting.
You're right.
That's a mind that I can reach. That's the sort of person I can deal with.
Hmm. You like nods again.
The only thing,
That's
the only thing that I want from the lot of you is to recognize that sometimes the greater good does require dirty hands.
that's true. Yeah. He's you could tell he's processing a lot. So he's wanting to like be more like vocal about things, but he's sitting back to like really just take a lot of it in.
You seem pensive.
Well, I would say I lived my whole life a lie, but I could say my whole guru life was a lie. Mother Larissa, the mom, she's done no wrong, is just as dirty. But on the other hand, she you did what any guru should do.
Her hands aren't dirty, not even close. Spick and
Well,
span, spotless Teflon hands. Don't know where she found that in the trash heap. She didn't have to
respect.
make that choice. I made it for her. I made it easy. I eased the burden of her leadership. And then, when it was all over, she yanked the reins of moral rectitude. Everything turned out all right in the end, did it not? We got the bomb, we got the leeches. My pack disintegrated. I was in no position to challenge her. And then I was the only loose end. And if I disappeared, the story might well be swept under the rug forever.
Mm.
So the only thing that she's really guilty of is cowardice, moral cowardice. And I would not call that the crime. I would call it I would call it very ungrateful.
Mm.
What do you think?
Still think her hands are dirty. Maybe not
How, how
necessarily.
so? Walk me through it.
I know for myself, I had a little bit of luxury, and then we didn't. We grew up on the streets, grew up in a shelter. It's hard life. You make it work. Requires you, at least at some point, some time, to manipulate, to deceive, to maybe convince someone to look the other way or do something for you or befriend them and treat them in such a way that when you're truly down in your luck, when you're truly in need of help, they're willing to help out because sure, you've always been down in your luck, but you've never shown it. You've never made it about you. You've always made it okay. You've always looked like it's fine, it's fine. And Larissa could have. Well, being a boner, I guess. You could tell he's definitely like on the fence about it because it's I wouldn't say necessarily we're cowards, but
Your tribe,
by other
your
tribe standards, yes.
your
Probably by
tribe is all about necessity, is what you say. Oh, this is just the world we live in. Oh, everyone else is so cruel. Oh, the nation doesn't appreciate or understand us. Oh, we're fine with it. We do what we must to survive. I don't think that's quite true. I was struggling earlier with how to describe the situation. And I think that you made an excellent point. What you speak of, what your tribe is all about, is inevitability. It is inevitable that your kind ends up in the gutters. It's not necessity. What I did is necessity, and that cost
I
me everything.
that's true. Hmm.
So you'll forgive me if I find no redeeming value in your dumpster diving tribe.
That's okay.
You come from a long lineage, so I don't necessarily shoulder you with the responsibility.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, you had something else you wanted to talk about?
Right. Yes. Yes. Um, I came here on the request of two stories. One, you did indulge me. This is much to think about, much to. There's a lot. I'll process this. I don't know if I'll be able to come back with better response, but thank you. The other story I was wondering was silver tusks. Um, I've heard that they had a quite the scuffle, quite the beatdown. They are tight-lipped. Don't want to tell anybody anything what happened, but we're Guru. We talk about everything as a Galliard, and he points to himself as a Galliard. We must talk about the victories and the hardships, the pirate victories, and well, the beatdowns. And if they're going to be tight-lipped, not discuss this, I was wondering if you would be so kind as to tell me the story of what happened.
Oh, yes. I do believe I remember that incident. The Silver Tusks. Very valiant, Garu. Very valiant. I could see the conviction in their eyes. It stirred me, such that Garu and your Sept have been incapable of doing for a long time. What I witnessed was a measure of bravery, conviction, moral firmness in the face of adversity. They had to know they were facing a terrible foe. Even when it became immediately clear, they did not flee in shame or surrender. They fought until the last, even after I inflicted a terrible curse upon their alpha, which I regret in hindsight.
Okay.
Those are going to be the leaders of your nation before long. That was a hard lesson learned. In a way, I admire them.
They are. Icarus touches his jaw. Yes, they are. They're a pack. Quite a pack. We don't know nearly as much, so I won't try to flourish up a story of this, but
They have a
definitely
bond.
look out. They
They have a
do.
bond that is not. I just don't see it in packs these days, to be honest. I saw them coordinating, working together, had genuine concern when the cards were not going their way for each other. I was moved. I was sorry for what I had to do to protect myself, but I was moved. Were that I gathered, I might even go against convention and have howled out the story of their bravery myself, but being Ronin, well, what can you do, right?
Huh.
Hopefully, you will go back and extol the virtues that they represent.
Actually, I will. I was I was expecting a different type of story, but this is a story worth telling all the same.
You could learn something from them.
Oh yes. Oh yes. I've learned plenty. Plenty. But thank you. I will definitely tell their tale at mood. Now,
Well,
whether or not they find it acceptable or not, that's not my problem. Stories must be told. Don't have to like it, but the story will always come out.
pride is a terrible virtue.
Pride comes before a fall. I've learned that too.
I have a feeling you have many such lessons in your future.
Uh, he definitely has a grin. Yes, I'm I'm learning. Guru aren't like the street. That's a bit of a tough lesson to unlearn.
Guru are a muddy, beaten, worn dirt path.
Yeah,
I hope you learned something today.
I have. I've learned a bit about you. I've learned a lot about myself. Learned about the sept. Feels like there's a pattern. I don't want to talk about it too loudly because I find that it's going to happen again soon.
Your silence is perpetuating the circle. Speak out.
Well, your story that it was a necessity. It needed to be done. House
Oh,
gleaming eye. Necessity. Their their fall. Seps. Maybe it's our ignorance. Maybe it's our pride. Maybe it's our willingness to bury our heads in the sand and not look at things for what they truly are. I wonder. I worry. I'm not a suspicious. I'm not a person who's suspicious of numbers and things, but this has happened twice. Usually things, if they're going to happen, usually happen in 3. I wonder if perhaps we are building up towards something similar where we see the signs, we get the information, we bury our heads in the sand, and then pat ourselves in the back for a job well done as we turn our backs on the ruin.
I tell you what, Chase's Peace, if you truly, truly believe in what you're saying, and if you speak up, and if you are ostracized and exiled because of it, I promise you this: you will have a place at my side.
Uh, um, thank you? Yes. No, I am sorry. Thank you. Um, do you think this is, again, eye-opening and not a suspicious person, but I've always been suspicious of 3s. I feel like a 3rd one is coming.
And if you have to make a hard decision, well, there's only upside, in my opinion. After all, if you happen to get exiled, technically you lose your trash tribe.
he could tell he wants to argue, but he just stops because he's just like, we literally are a trash tribe. So
Vasili smirks. Now, go on. Take these stories back to the set.
he gets up and he looks for a place to put the cup so that he's just not like leaving it anywhere. Where would you like me to put this?
Leave it there. It's fine.
And he'll set it down. Again, thank you very much for your time out of your busy day to speak with me.
I'm very busy. Hopefully, I will have opened up the eyes of the set by the time we speak next.
There's definitely a heavy breathing. He's just like, I hope so too.
Oh, and by the way, please do tell your pack mate, Havoc, no hard feelings. He winks.
No hard feelings. And then he taps his head a little bit, like, I'll be sure to let him know. And then he will excuse himself right out the door.
Vasily sits there for a moment and watches him leave. And so Icarus finds himself back out away from the intense, foreboding atmosphere that has seemed to be crushing in around him the entire time he was in the room. Something about Vasily had a weight to it, an oppressive force around you. But now that you're free, it seems like weights have lifted off your shoulders.
He takes a deep breath, like, oh, God. Oh, Gaia. Oh, it'll be real interesting. Real interesting.
With that, I think we can end the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, player, for playing. Watchers for watching. Good night.